Hi, I'm Erica Matthews. I'm a freelance editor and author of Promises Prayer, which I just launched and you can find on Amazon or on restinglife.com. Today I'm talking about line editing. What's the difference between line editing and copy editing? In essence, they're very similar. They work together. Some people do both at once. Some people do one and then the other. Usually when people talk about copy editing, they mean more of the technical aspects of editing. Punctuation, capitalization, grammar, spelling, the things you'd find with spell check, the grammar rules. Whereas line editing usually means more word choice, sentence structure, paragraph cohesiveness, questioning and examining every word of your manuscript to make sure it's the clearest, strongest, and best word that you can use to communicate your message. Personally, I like to do copy editing and line editing together. Some people prefer to do one first and then the other. Some people say you should do line editing first because why fix the technical aspects if you're just going to rewrite or change or delete that later? Wait until you have the content the way you want it and then do the technical editing. Personally, I find it hampers my creative process when I'm looking at errors. I find that very distracting. So I like to either do the copy editing first, or more generally, I like to do them together, more at the same time. So, how do we do it? How do we take our manuscript and make it into something beautiful? First, especially if we're editing our own work, we need to detach ourselves. We need to step back. It's often harder to edit our own work because we know why we chose that word. We know why we put that paragraph in there. We know why we structured the sentence the way we did. We need to step back and look at it from an outside perspective. So don't jump in and edit right away. Wait a while. And this project I'm showing you today, I wrote this in November and I'm just now coming back to it. So this is Surrender Strength, Book 3 of my Truth from Taerna. So Book 3 after Promises Prayer, which is Book 1. This is not edited at all, and I'm going to show you today how I line edit it. There are several tools you can use. I like to do most of it right in the word processor. You can track the changes right here. You can add a comment if there's something you need to edit later. There's a lot you can do with it. Some other things you can do are you can use an online tool or a browser-based or a word processor-based tool. Here's one that I've used, Pro Writing Aid. It's free. You can only do small sections at once if you have the free version, but I do like to use it. All you do is paste in your manuscript right here, and then it will give you a summary of your word count, your sentence count, your vocabulary, all these different aspects. It will highlight, it will tell you the most unusual words you use. It will tell you how many unique words. It will tell you what your most used words are, and I find this very helpful because if there's words you're overusing, then it's helpful to change them. It will tell you if you have sentence variety, what your average sentence length is. Basically, it will give you a report with lots of different tools you can use to determine what you need to edit and what words could be stronger. And if you look at all these other buttons, they'll break it down for you. It'll show you where your cliches are, what your grammar is, if you've overused words. If you have words that are used too often, it'll highlight them and underline them. Or you can go over here and click Combo and it will show you everything in your document. So you have this document all marked up. You can change everything, or you can look at everything. You can use these tools over here to go to that item, and it will tell you what it thinks. You do have to be careful about not over-editing. There is such a thing as that. But this is one tool you can use. Another tool you can use is let your computer read your manuscript to you. Natural Reader is a free tool I've been using. You can upload your manuscript and open it up, and it will read it to you. And that's very helpful. It helps you hear different things. And let's go through a line edit. So what is our goal here with line editing? Our goal is to be able to pick out the words, the paragraphs and the sentences that need to be strengthened. Our goal is to pick the strongest word, the most cohesive paragraph, all of that type of thing. There's a few different things you can look for when you go through your manuscript. I'm going to go over them very quickly for you right now, and then we will see them as I go through my manuscript here. A few things that we look for in line editing are wordiness. We want to make the sentence as concise as possible. We look for words that are redundant. We look for words that tell instead of show. We look for words that are overused or repetitive. This is similar to redundant, but specifically what I mean here is words you use too often, too close together. We look for anything that's unclear or your meaning doesn't show easily. We look for filler. Look for words you know that are problem areas. Maybe you know you use the word suddenly too much. So go to your document, put in suddenly, hit enter in this find, which you can bring up by clicking Control F. And you can also go to the advanced find, and you can highlight every instance of the word, and then you can go through it. And you'll be able to see, here's all the times you use the word suddenly. Do you use it too much? Do you need to change some of them? Maybe they don't actually do all these things suddenly. So that's just one other more thing you can look for if you know you have a word you overuse. Another thing is weak words, like really, or very, or said. There's a lot of different weak words that you can go through and look for them and highlight them or change them to stronger words. Look for cliches. Sometimes we're used to hearing a word said a certain way or a phrase said a certain way, so that's what we write. Maybe it's an overused phrase, and maybe we need to find a fresh phrase. Other than that, look for paragraph flow. How does your paragraph sound together? Is it choppy? Is it smooth? And how can you rearrange it and change the words? Look for sentence length and variety. Have short sentences and long sentences. Also check your transitions. Are they smooth? Are you actually transitioning? If you didn't know anything about your story, could you get a sense of how the time was flowing? Check point of view. This was one big area I had to edit with Promise's Prayer, especially towards the beginning, because I wrote portions of that in an omniscient point of view instead of writing solely from the main character's point of view. So I had to go back and read every sentence and think, is this what he would have seen? Is this what he would have heard? Is this what he would have thought? Would he have known this? And in many instances I had to rewrite it because no, he wouldn't have known that. So that's one thing that's very important. Also look for anything that doesn't make sense. Would your main character really be leaning against the door frame when they were holding their baby sister in the last paragraph? There's a lot of different things that it's easy to have slip into your first draft that maybe aren't logically sound with reality and consistent with reality. So those are a few things that we can look for. And what does this look like in a line edit? I'm going to go through chapter 2 here and looking for these things and seeing what we can find. So, the days and weeks in Friedale seem to fly by too quickly. Here we have an example of wordiness. So I'm going to change seem to fly by to flew by. much more concise. Obviously, we know that they seem to fly by to the main character just by the context. Leilera was busy packing, cleaning, cooking, visiting friends, and packing in as many trivia contests as she could before she had to leave. Now here's an example of redundancy or repetitiveness. I use the word packing in 2 different ways here. That could be a little confusing. So I can change one of them. How about cramming in as many trivia contests as she could before she had to leave? She found the contest more and more fascinating. The extra more is not needed here, even though each one seemed to eat more time out of her days. Here we have an example of wordiness. She found each contest more fascinating. Let's move this over here. So each contest she attended more fascinating, even though each one seemed to eat out more of her days. That is much more concise, less wordy. She only tried to cram them more full. Was more and more frustrated to find it wasn't working. Here, this is more telling. I'm telling you she's frustrated. Let's try to show this instead. How about, instead of saying she's more and more frustrated, we say, and each evening as she climbed in bed, she sighed. In frustration with how little she'd accomplished. At last, the last day of her stay in Friedale arrived. Here's an example of using words repetitively. I have last, and last here 3 times. So I'm going to change this to finally. And I'm going to change this to her last day in Friedale for conciseness. She packed the last remnants of the belongings she wanted to take with her, and I'm going to delete last because if they're remnants, they're probably last. That's redundant. Said goodbye to her friends and rose early in the morning. Too early, she thought, as she stumbled through the house in darkness illuminated only by the light of a single candle. Stumbled is a strong word. It tells how she walked, so I'm going to leave that. Illuminated is a strong word. Actually, I'm going to change this to it provided, because that's stronger than was. The gray darkness before the dawn. I'm going to take out before the dawn because I talk about the pale pink haze on the horizon. That's redundant. It's not adding anything to the sentence. So, we see wordiness here, we see filler, we see unclearness. It's a lot of tightening your manuscript, making it more concise, picking the strongest words to communicate your message. That's what's important. So, that's line editing. So go through your manuscript, highlight words, or take notes. Another thing you can do is print your manuscript and use a real highlighter. Take notes, write on your manuscript. Circle words that you know need to be changed. Mark it up. Strengthen it as much as you can. Again, the goal is to have our message come through without any distractions as clearly as possible. And that is what line editing is all about. So that's line edit walkthrough. Thank you for watching, and may God bless you.